everybody. Welcome to another CEED event, Leaders Talk. Today we have Craig with us. I think he has a really interesting story. He's going to share it with us. And we're also going to talk about future. So I think today it's going to be really interesting. We're going to start by knowing a little bit more about Craig. He's an entrepreneur. He's been here to Slovenia. How many of you have seen Craig in 2019? Can you raise hands? So it's 2, so it's 3. Okay. Great. So, new audience.
Yeah. New victims.
New victims, yeah. We had a great event last time. But first, so Craig, I know entrepreneur, you know both US and European business environment. You started a bootstrapped company, you sold it recently. And I would start with what is Cleverbridge? So I guess many people here, they saw your bio, clicked on the links, but still, what's Cleverbridge? It sounds impressive, but what does it do? So can you start with this, and then maybe tell us more about your founder story?
Sure. Thank you for having me again. It's really great to be back. And this time, I knew in advance that I had Slovenian ancestry, so I've been doing a little bit of research in the background. And tomorrow we're going to do a little bit more in the field. So it's been really fun to spend some time doing that. So Cleverbridge is a billing platform that helps digital commerce businesses sell their products around the world. We're an online reseller. So think of like a retail store that software would be sold in, but we just do it online. And we basically take care of all of the challenges that is involved in selling a product across borders. If you think about it, it's the point that you as a customer are buying something, you're about to click the buy button until you've been delivered the product. So we handle all of that customer experience, we handle all of the payments, all of the languages, the currencies, we take care of all of that in a white label product so that our clients can sell to you and do it in a really effective local way. So we want, the idea is that we can optimize the conversion rate of people who are going into the checkout process or the subscription process and achieve a higher result because you feel like you see things in Slovenian, you see it in euros, it feels like a store from down the street. It feels like someone local is there helping you. And that's what we do as a company.
Yeah, can you give us a few examples?
Yeah, so if you've bought any kind of software on the internet in the last few years, whether it's like Parallels, a Windows virtualization software for Macintosh computers, Avira, which is an antivirus product, you might have heard of Corel, which is a they've got paint tools and things like that. Productivity suite, PDF products like Nitro PDF. So we do a lot of that stuff for companies all around the world. We've got Japanese clients, Russian clients, US, UK, Germany a lot because we're also headquartered in Germany, which we'll talk about in a second here. So really companies all around the world. And we do more and more with subscription companies. So that's where software is expanding to. So we've been doing that as well. And occasionally there will be a physical product that gets shipped with the software. So in one example, when you're migrating from one computer to an old computer to a new computer, there's software out there called LapLink that helps you get all of your files from one computer to another. They also sell a cable with it to make that easy. This is 10 years ago kind of stuff. Right now, a lot of everything is in the cloud, so it's a lot easier to transfer. But that's an example of the kind of products that we would sell.
What about your story? So how did you start? Why Germany and so on? So can you enlighten us here?
Yeah, it's a fairly unusual starting point for a company. Typically, it's you and your friends in a room and you say, hey, let's start this business. We've got an idea, and you kind of do it. It's very local. Well, I was working for a German company, but living in Chicago at the time, and that company had me going over to Germany every few months. So I got to know these guys in Germany, and I spoke some German in high school and college, and I really enjoyed the culture, the beer, the pretzels, all the quality things about Germany. And I really got to make some good friends in Cologne, Germany. And then one day we woke up and the company was acquired by the largest US competitor, who was a stock listed company and had been the enemy for a long time. So my friends and I immediately started sitting and saying, hey, wait, do we want to work for this company? What other options do we have? Are we going to go to the wind and work at a bunch of different companies? And so my friends and I, who were all sort of second level management to the executives, we got together behind the scenes and we said, should we start something ourselves? Is this the kind of thing we want to go on an adventure? And honestly, I know for myself, I can't speak for them, but I think they were similar. There was no real expectation in 2004 that we would be entrepreneurs. We didn't think that way. It was not a personal goal. And so we're all in our 30s. We had a little bit of money from the sale. We had our own savings from many years of being in the workforce. And we had connections in the digital software industry. So we said, okay, let's go off and do this ourselves. And I was based in the US, they were based in Cologne, Germany, and we got together and we started Cleverbridge, put our own money in. We bootstrapped the company from day one. We never took any venture capital money. In the first year, we had our product in market. We had our first client on board. And then the second year, we were profitable because we were signing enterprise deals. So as a client brought their business to us, we would earn a fee for every transaction that we managed. And so those are sometimes enterprise level accounts. So we might earn 10 to 50,000 euros a month in revenue from them. So we could really grow fast through just a few accounts that we signed up. And so very quickly we started growing the business and investing in the business and hiring people. And for a 5-year stretch, we grew in the US 1 person a month, every month for 5 years. And then in Germany, we were growing 1.5 people per month, every month for 5 years. So you can do the math. I don't know, it was 100, 150 people, something, over 5 years that we grew. And so we were roughly about 60-40 based in Germany versus the US. Why did we do it that way? We did it that way because we said Germans are great at building products, programming, engineering, being very precise, and Americans are better at talking and schmoozing and selling, marketing, those kinds of things. So that's how we initially said why we're different and how we're going to do things differently. But of course, over time, we had engineering in the US and we had sales and marketing in Germany as well. So over the years, then we expanded into Tokyo and into Japan. We expanded into Taiwan. We opened an office there. We had individual people all around the world. And it was a ton of fun. But that's how we kind of got started as a US-German company. But I like to say that we were global from day one. And that's really true. We were global from day one because I was there, my friends were in Germany, and we just kind of did it.
How did you get your first business? So, okay, you decided we don't want to work for this company, we quit and so on. And how did you know, where did this business start? I mean, who did you call? Did you send an email or?
Yeah, that was one of the keys of our success was that we came from this industry, right? So we had connections in the industry. And when we decided to leave, before we left and started Cleverbridge, we wrote down a list of all the companies and the people and thought, okay, who can we go to first? Who's going to be willing to take a chance on us, not our platform, but on us? Because that's really what we were selling, is our relationships, our expertise, and our commitment to following through. And so there was, the first company was out of Germany, of course, and it was a company that didn't like how the market was going, and we knew that because we were friends with them and we would talk to them. And so what they did was really smart, is they said, okay, we'll try you, but we're just going to try you through an email campaign. So our normal business, customers coming to our website and then we hand them over to you, that we're going to leave where it is. But we're going to send out an email campaign promoting a product for, it was cheap, like €5, €7, something like that. And all of those sales will go through your system. So that was a great low-risk way of trying something new. And for us, it was also great because if there was a problem, we'd have time between one customer buying and the next one, because it might be 30 minutes or an hour, and we could fix things on the fly as it was going. And then the second customer was out of Berlin, another German customer, same sort of situation. They said, okay, we hate, you know, what's happening with your old company. We want to try something new. You know, they're sort of anti-establishment, so they loved that we were kind of fighting the big player in the market. And so they said, okay, let's give it a try. They did the same thing. And within, I would say, a couple of months, they both moved the majority of their business, their default organic kind of business through their website over to us. And so that was really great. That got us off and running. The interesting story is that the first customer in the US that we won, we won him at a trade show, and he moved his business to us. He tried it and moved it to us, and then told us, this doesn't work. You're converting worse than your competitor. Well, this was a guy in a rural part of America who was downloading this big sort of piece of software that we had to run his system, and we actually think his customers were very inexperienced, and we had new technology, and it was flashy, and it worked a little bit better, but people weren't used to it. So an older demographic of customers wasn't used to it. So we think that was why he actually ended up canceling the contract. So our first customer in the US, we actually lost, and then got our next one, and then kind of the rest goes from there.
You're looking here at entrepreneurs most, and everybody is interested in growth. You know, what are next steps and moving forward to other countries and so on. So can you tell us a bit more what happened then, and maybe a few numbers? You know, the size of the team and revenue and things like that.
So of the company kind of at the end, or
yeah, I mean,
as we were growing?
What happened after you started?
Oh, okay.
First, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we had about 13 people when we were break even, and some of us, most of us, the founders, were not taking any salary at that point, so we were just paying other people to make sure that they could live, and we probably, I think the first year we might have done a couple of million in total transaction volume, and now Cleverbridge does about 800 million euros a year. So it's gone up quite a bit. Roughly, there's probably 1.5 million transactions a month that are processed. So, you know, over time, right, it grew and grew. And for us, how this number really grew is because every client that we signed up would largely be a step up in terms of the total number of transactions we processed. So in those early years, maybe we're doing 25,000 transactions a month. And then we sign someone and we add 10,000 more per month. So we went from 25 to 35, which is a 30% jump from one month to the next. As you get those numbers bigger, right, it's the law of big numbers that it's hard to move the percentages higher. So if we're doing 800,000 transactions in a month, then to go to 900,000 is a 10% growth, but that's a big jump in and of itself, macro number. So yeah, so every transaction we process is probably about 3 to 4 euros per transaction in revenue for us on a 50 euro kind of transaction price.
Did you have a plan when you started? So you decided with your friends, coworkers, okay, we're going to quit and start this. Did you have a business plan? So in so many years we're going to make this much money or something like that? Or did you just go along with what happens?
Yeah, I think we put together a business plan and we threw it in the garbage. Not because the business didn't work or it was deviating. It was just we spent a bunch of time at the beginning when we had a little bit of free time, and we worked through it, we put it together, and realized, who's looking at this, right? Who cares? And what was more important, though, was that we were all aligned on what we were driving for. And to your real question, I would say we did not have a plan of where we were going. We knew what kind of product we wanted to build. We knew the features we needed for the next 5 years. We knew that we wanted to win customers and clients. But I don't think we really had a very clear, hey, this is, we're going to get to this level and then we want to sell the business. It was more a lifestyle, right? We wanted to build an organization as the kind of place that we wanted to go work. And over time, that really happened. But we didn't have an aligned agreement on, okay, well, what are we going to do when? When do we want to sell this thing? And you can see that a little bit because there were 4 of us founders. The first founder, all of us worked together for 9 years before the first one left. So that's pretty unusual to have that many people that are sort of working together at the same level and don't have massive disagreements and things blow up. Usually it's like 3, 4, 5 years. But we made it 9 years and before the first one of our founders left the business. And so I think at that point, that's when we really started thinking, okay, well, what are we doing here? What's the timeline look like? But that was as we were going along, then we started having those discussions. It was not from day one. We were just having a great time running a business and traveling the world and winning clients, and it was just so much fun.
What about your role? So you didn't start as a CEO, right? You became CEO later in your career. So how did your path change? Because most of the people here, you start a business as a programmer or a technician or something like that. So how is your journey in your job description wise or your career path wise?
Yeah, it was very awkward over the years. You won't see it on LinkedIn, but the reality is I think I started as, I always had the title, if you will, of co-founder, right? I was a co-founder, that was it. I'm one of the 4 people that started the business, but how could I present myself to the outside world and what was my responsibility in the company? I think my first title might have been like, I'm not even sure, Vice President North America, for example. Then it became VP of Marketing, and then it was, I'm not even sure anymore. I eventually took over sales, but I did VP of Operations. So it was I was more like the Swiss Army knife of the 4 of us. One was clearly the CTO, one was clearly the head of sales, one was clearly the head of sort of business development and our CEO. And I was happy. Those 3 sat together in a room. I was in the US, I had to do everything. Right? I answered customer phone calls. I did some programming on the side to win business. I was hiring people, dealing with the banks, all kinds of stuff. So my sort of, it was difficult to figure out like, what is my niche? And I think that's because I really just I'm good at a lot of things, but I'm not great at any one thing. And so it was hard to fit me into a box. As people started leaving the company, right, my partners, then it was natural to say, and I had a lot of experience selling. So then eventually it became, okay, well, Craig, why don't you take over sales? I mean, you know this, you've been in the business for a long time. Why don't you do that? And then when my partner, who was the CEO, left, I was the natural next person because I was very good on the business side. I had a lot of experience there. I understood the programming. People respected me in Germany and the US, so it was a nice sort of next step. And then at the end, when we did sell the business, I was just ready to hand it off to somebody else because it's not a job I really wanted or sought. So for me, it was really easy to say, hey, it's time for somebody else to come in and run this. And my next step is to go and sit here in Ljubljana and talk to entrepreneurs.
When we read about the exit or watch it or something like that, it's always a fairy tale story. So okay, here is Craig, and he decided I'm going to sell my company and so on. And but it's hard to see on the website or LinkedIn or whatever. The gritty details about what really happened. So were you happy? Were there problems and so on? So can you share more about the exit part of your story?
Yeah, it's. Anybody who's an entrepreneur knows that there are days you just want to jump out the window and end it all because it's so frustrating. Then there's other days that it's just awesome, right? You have such a great time, the people around you love and everything like that. And to me, the day that you start having more of the bad days than the good days, it should be time to change something. Whether that's sell it, whether that's taking a new role, whatever it is. And for me, I'd been in the business, running the business for 15 years, and I was just a little bit tired of all of the same discussions that we've had for many, many years. I was just tired of that, and people, I like to say people suck, and that's kind of true because everybody wants something, but it's not that people really suck, it's hard running a business and managing people. It just is. So during COVID, when COVID happened, that was great for our business, right? We're e-commerce, where people are buying software. Lots of people have new computers that they needed because they're now remote, so our business was up big, and we just got to sit and reap the rewards. Well, that set the stage for us to go out and take an investment in the company. So we had hired a really experienced CFO who knew how to sell businesses or do transactions, I'll say it that way. That's probably more accurate. To get a deal done, to get some kind of deal done. And so he led us through the process of talking to all the different people that had been reaching out for years, that now we were interested in aligning all of the shareholder interests to take the founders that had left, get them out of the business so that we could take advantage of this great opportunity that was ahead of us. And so the CFO helped set up the conversations with these investors. And at the beginning, we were saying, hey, we just want a minority investment. We just want to clean up the cap table a bit, move some people out, but we really believe in this business and we see the future. And so we got a lot of interest from that. You know, I didn't know how to do this. So having the CFO there was great because he was the guy that said, here's the plan, here's how we're going to do this. And so over time, after conversations with the investors, then he casually mentioned, you know, we'd be open, if you're interested, if you like this business that much, we would be open to a majority stake where we can, you know, clean things up even further. And so we were lucky that a number of the investors, who were all private equity companies, were interested in that. And he played them very well. And timing was really good, COVID and sort of the stock market and low interest rates and all that. And we were fortunate to have a transaction that happened. But the one thing I'll mention is that for me, I knew I wanted out one way or the other. I was tired of those same conversations. So in the first presentation to one of the private equity firms, I was the CEO, so I started the presentation and I said, Cleverbridge, this is almost exactly how I started it. I said, Cleverbridge has been a founder-led company for 15 years. And for us to reach the potential that we have as an organization, we've been in a transition to a professionally led organization. I didn't say I wanted out, but 2 days later, the private equity company called me and said, hey, Craig, we heard you loud and clear, but we just want you to know we don't want you out. So is this something you really want? Because, you know, we want you to be part of this company. And I said, I'm not looking to quit tomorrow and run away, but I think this is what the company needs because we've been going sideways for a few years until COVID, where we had a really good run. So it was better, I think, honestly, for the shareholders and the new investor. They should have somebody new at the top and really with a fresh perspective and hopefully the experience of having taken a company with 300 people and driving it up to 1,000. And I really think that that was the best thing for the shareholders. The question was, what about the emotions behind it? It was hard. It was hard. There was I would say it this way, that it was a spectrum, right? On a spectrum of love the company, it is my baby, I'm never giving this thing up, to where I am today, which is congratulations, you know, do what you want, I don't care. And it's not that I don't care, but you know what I mean? I don't have any responsibility. And it takes time to work through that process. And there were things that happened in the operations of the business over the last few years where it made me more and more not want to care. Partially I was just tired of the same conversations, but then there were people that were brought in where I thought, this is not the direction the company should be going. But there were games being played behind the scenes that I just didn't want to be a part of. And so over time, I was happy to say, thank you for you know, setting me up. Now, you know, you have the responsibility to run this. And it took time, though, to work through those emotions. There's still employees that I hired that have been at the company for 10, even 15 years that I want them to do well. And those people are the reasons that I didn't want to leave. But everything else about the business was the reason I wanted to leave. I was tired. I was done. So the good news is I still get to see those people and talk to them and help mentor them, but I don't have any of the things I didn't like about the company. And it's changed enough now that I don't feel bad for them. I don't feel like I left my baby in the garbage or anything like that, right? I think I did everything I could to make a nice, smooth transition, and it is somebody's baby now, and that's okay. It's a teenager. You know, they're off to college.
Yeah. What about your co-founders? Are you still friends, or do you see each other, or is it more like, okay, everybody's living at a different part of the world? And
I spent 15 years with these guys, and they're German, and so nobody loves Germans more than me. However, I haven't seen them for a year or so, and I need a break from Germany. I mean, I love going to Germany. I've done it 80-something times in 15 years. I just needed a break. And so my wife and I were talking about the European football championships are next summer in Germany. And I think I had a few drinks. I was like, yeah, we should go. Let's do this. It'll be in Germany. It'll be great. We can see our friends. And then a couple days later, after I sobered up, I was like, you know what? Right now, I still need more time away. But I love those guys. I mean, they are my partners. Without them, this would have never happened. I would never be in this position. They've been good to me. They've been really good to me. And so, you know, no hard feelings, and I will see them. It's just right now, I need a break from Germany.
and some football and some beer, right?
Yeah. I still drive a BMW, but that was bought before all this happened. Great question. So what happened before COVID, when the company was going sideways, and how could we tell it was going sideways, and what were our thoughts about what was the reason for that? And I think that's a fantastic question. There are probably books that will be written about this, but you can see it in the numbers, right? We were always a business when we got to scale that it was really hard to grow the business because we were pretty large, right? So like I was mentioning earlier, if we were doing 1 million transactions a month, to grow 10%, we had to do 100,000 new ones every single month for the entire year. And at that scale, it's hard to sometimes convince people to take a risk in switching their infrastructure out. So we saw 10 years in that things started to slow down. It became more and more difficult to win other clients to our platform. So we tried all kinds of things. We changed people out. We hired in people who had experience in our market. We changed incentives. We did all different kinds of things. Tried different markets. We were trying different verticals. We did all kinds of stuff. And I think looking back, and this is something I'm going to talk about actually in my presentation, it was really a question of trends in that about 7 or 8 years ago, right, the iPad came along. And people started using apps and developing apps more than software per se. Like software sort of tapped out its market in terms of how much there was. So, and subscriptions, pure subscriptions, treating a user like a subscriber instead of a transaction. Those are some fundamental trends that happened in our space that we, honestly, I don't think we're really aware of because we were too busy looking internally and arguing over this and that and the other thing. So over time, over several years, we realized that that there was some fundamental problems that we were not great at solving. And so we spent time trying to bring in other people and search for different markets and things like that. And so it's a very hard thing. And one of the if we were talking sort of about markets and such, the one thing I tell a lot of people, what I've experienced, if you're a technology company especially, there's about a 10-year gap or a 10-year window for your product. One of the mistakes we made was we never really swapped out the technology underlying our product because we were so focused on just winning the next customer. And what I've seen now, and you can look at a lot of companies, it's the same thing. There's about 10 years where the customer that you were solving a problem for, the solution, their problem changes out from underneath you. And the solution that you have needs to change with it. And I like to say this quote that people don't care about your solution, they care about their problems. And so if you focus on how great your solution is and you just tell people about how awesome you are, eventually the problem will change out from underneath you and they'll be gone. But if you're like a pit bull grabbing onto a bone, and that bone is the problem, and you keep hold of it and you keep paying attention to what's happening to that bone as it changes, as the problem changes, you evolve your solution with it and you'll ride that wave for a lot longer. And we did not. And I think that was, we were fortunate COVID came along because it showed a lot of growth and got investors interested. But otherwise we would have kind of been sort of going sideways for a while more. Great question. So Shareit was part of Element 5, which is the German company I started working at. It was acquired. Shareit was the original part of the business. They then rolled out this company called Element 5 to target enterprise companies. It's kind of like buying software at retail stores in a box. When everybody was already moved on to downloads, there was still lots of business in selling boxed software at the retail stores. So I think it's on a trend that's going to go down over time because people are doing different things. But there are, and I won't dig into this subject too much, we can talk about it later if you're interested, but there are products that just will never move to a subscription model or a SaaS cloud-hosted model. There's just things, and in fact, I think we've all sort of seen it, right? 5, 6, 7 years ago, iPads were the rage. Everybody's got one, and they think that that can be their sort of day-to-day computer. And I don't see hardly anybody using them anymore, right? There's a handful of people, but it is perfectly suited for real estate agents, for people that are moving around a lot, showing pictures, right, doing some of that. But for trying to do real work, it's just, I think we've all kind of realized it's a nice tool, it's a multimedia tool, but it's not a workhorse to get things done. Spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff just doesn't work that well. Programming, you can't really do that on an iPad. You can, but it's just clunky.